Welcome to Closer to Venus. I'm Johnny Burke, and today's guest is Cynthia Clark. She is an Ascension healer, hand analysis expert, and author of several books, including the upcoming Ways to God. She is also a featured expert in the upcoming movie Pillars of Power. In this episode, we'll talk about a deja vu experience that led her down a path that brought her to teach Ascension as we are evolving in consciousness. Cynthia, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. So glad to be here.
Ascension healer. That's interesting. That's one term I don't really hear a whole lot about. Is that similar to an energy healer, or is it something different?
I would say it is similar, yes. I've got lots of experience in energy healing, and it's just evolved over the years. Now that I focus on Ascension, it seemed appropriate to just call myself that.
So when we talk about Ascension, does that have something to do with moving from 3D to 5D, or is it something different?
Yes, it has to do with our evolution as humans, and we are raising our vibration, our vibratory set point. We are moving into a new body, so to speak. We're tapping into more of our light body. They call it the crystalline light body. We're activating that light body within us so that we can actually experience a higher density of reality. And that's what Ascension really is all about.
There is an awful lot of chatter about Ascension these days and moving from one age to the other. And speaking of ages, we're all familiar with people talking about the Aquarian age. Are we in the Aquarian age, or are we going to be entering soon, or what are your thoughts on that?
This leads to how I started seeing this number 717, and I was getting these synchronicities pretty much every day. I would see this number at least 5 times a day, and it was right after I moved to Sedona. I just didn't know what it was all about. I learned that it was about Ascension. So the 7 representing the 7 aspects of Ascension. The 17 was talking about the timeline of Ascension. So yeah, you talk about the Aquarian age. So if you look at the end of the Mayan calendar, which was December 21st, 2012, right? Everybody thought the world was going to end at that time. There was a lot of scare around that time. And of course, I wasn't scared. I knew we were just going into a new phase. But I didn't realize, and I think a lot of people didn't realize at that time, that we have a transitional period. And what my spirit guides told me is that it would take approximately 17 years of transitional period. So if you add 2012 plus 17 years, you get 2029. So that was what they told me.
So that was the deja vu experience that you said basically changed your life when you started to see the number 717.
Yeah, that definitely put me on the path of Ascension and really focusing on Ascension. I had to pay attention to that number because it was so in my face. I don't know about you, but when I first started waking up, I started seeing numbers like 1111 or 222 or 555. You see those repeating, like angel numbers, they call them. So for me, the 717 was such a weird, random number. I'm like,
it's a Pennsylvania area code is what it is, really.
Yeah, that's true. It is.
Okay. So I grew up in New Jersey, so I know the area codes. So what inspired you to move to Sedona?
Well, that was also really interesting because I wasn't planning on moving out of Colorado. I lived in Aspen, Colorado for about 7 years. My husband said, I never want to leave Colorado. I love it here. And I'm like, okay, that's fine with me. I like Colorado. I like the mountains. I like to ski, stuff like that. So one day, about 2 years into our marriage, he came down and he's like, I feel like we're moving. I don't know why, but I just feel like that's what we're doing. And so I'm like, okay. That's really out of the blue for someone who's like, I never want to move to we're moving. So I opened up a map of the United States and I actually felt the energy of the different states. And Arizona just like started popping up like crazy. It was so much more energy than all the others. So I said, well, maybe we should look at Arizona. So we booked a trip out to Sedona and we looked at about 25 houses in 1 week. I said, if we find the perfect house, I will move. And of course we did. And that's how we ended up here.
Sedona is known for some unusual activity, which I'm sure we're going to get to in a moment. You mentioned spirit guides. When you were younger, were you sensitive to spirits? Did you see things or have any kind of psychic activity?
I would say yes. Although when you're a kid, you kind of just consider everything to be normal. So you don't really think of it like that. I've always been a very sensitive kid. I used to play by myself. My mom actually told me, you're always just playing by yourself. What is wrong with you? You don't want to play with other kids. I was playing with my spirit guides. I didn't need to be playing with other kids. I had my team, they were around me all the time. That was pretty interesting. And so eventually, of course, I was told, oh, well, no, you got to play with other kids. Then, of course, I kind of outgrew that a little bit. My dad actually gave me a copy of a book about Edgar Cayce when I was about 10 years old. I was still pretty darn young. That's when I'm like, oh my gosh, this stuff is totally real. We have reincarnation, we have past lives, we have this whole unseen realm, and it just sort of perked it back up within me. So I always had that openness, even though I grew up in Utah as a Mormon. That was my background.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So Mormons, don't they believe that a mortal man can become a god? Isn't that true?
I don't know. I'm so far out of the church now. That could be true.
That's what I was told. I'll tell you a story about that later. It's an unrelated thing, but that's how I found out. Also, you have spirit guides you're still in touch with, right?
Yeah, I talk to them all the time.
Okay, so you also talk to angels and galactics. By galactics, are you talking about like star beings or?
Yeah, so after I moved to Sedona and I started seeing that 717 all the time, I really ramped up my automatic writing process that I have been doing for many years. I've actually been meditating for about 25 years, and I've been doing automatic writing for at least 20 years. So I telepathically connect in meditation. I have a notebook, I have a pen, I connect, and it's sort of like dialing in a channel, right? You dial in a different channel to talk to a different angel or a different archangel. A lot of times I don't actually go in knowing who I'm going to talk to before they come in. I just know that it's going to be somebody from a higher dimensional realm, and they're going to be helping me in some way. And that's always the information that comes through. It's very loving. It's very supportive. So after I moved to Sedona, I started getting messages from the Pleiadian Council of Light, the Arcturians, the Syrians, the Andromedans, the Hathors, and a bunch of archangels, Shamuel, Uriel, Gabriel, Raphael, Michael. Those are pretty much the main ones that I get messages from.
That's a pretty comprehensive list. Tell us about some of the things that you learned. Let's start with the star beings first. I refer to them as star beings because the medium told me a while back that they don't like being called aliens because alien means apart, and they don't feel like they're apart from us.
That's true. I never call them aliens either. I just call them galactics or galactic beings, or I just refer to them as they refer to themselves, so Pleiadian or Arcturian. So I refer to them that way, or ET, sometimes I'll just say ET. But yeah, I never ever call them aliens.
What are some of the things that you've learned from them or what they've told you?
The Pleiadian Council of Light started coming in and they started teaching me about palm portal healing. So this is because I have a very strong background in hand analysis. I've been reading hands for about 17 years. and it's definitely a passion of mine. I love hand analysis more than any other modality for learning about who you are because it is so specific. It's very scientific and it's tangible. You can look at a birth chart or you can do like a Myers-Briggs test or whatever, those personality tests. And yes, they're super useful. And I think all of them are really good. I love all the modalities, but there's something really special about hand analysis in that you can look at your hand and you can see what's going on. I've definitely done that in multiple past lives. So the Pleiadian Council of Light came in and they started teaching me that your hands are not only the roadmap to everything about who you are, but they are also portals to your multidimensional self. And you can work with those portals for healing purposes and for ascension. That's the main stuff that they teach me. And it's all about raising the vibratory set point, activating that crystalline light body, letting go of all the lower stuff that you just need to let go of, like shame and guilt and those negative emotions and those limiting beliefs and all that stuff.
There are portals to other dimensions in the palm of my hand.
Yes.
Okay.
Each fingerprint is a portal. So you have 10, one for each finger, and then you also have one in the center of your palm called the portal of change. So you technically have 11 portals in your palms.
Okay. Not something we hear about every day, but we like that. It's definitely some good info. You mentioned past lives a minute ago. How did you discover your past lives? Was it an instantaneous recall? Was it in a regression or a meditation? How did that work?
When I first started seeing that 717, I really wanted to get some outside verification about the information that I was receiving in my own channeled messages. So I hired a hypnotherapist who does QHHT hypnotherapy, and it's like a 5-hour session, extremely in-depth.
5 hours?
5 hours. Yeah, it took me 2 days to prepare for this session. I wrote down about 20 questions that I wanted to ask my subconscious. And one of the questions, of course, was about the 717 and my Pleiadian connection and all that stuff. People who have never had this type of therapy done, the very first thing that they do is they take you into a past life or a life between lives. You go somewhere. In that first session, I did have a past life connection with a Chinese life. I was a starving woman with 3 kids, and my husband was already gone, and I was by the Great Wall of China, and I saw my boy, my son, starve to death. And then I decided I wanted to go over the wall. I didn't care if it was going to kill me. Sure enough, there was a guard who killed all of us. That was what I was shown. So that was my first past life.
So is it QHTT or QHHT?
It's QHHT. It stands for Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And it was started by Dolores Cannon.
Exactly. Right. I had someone on the show a while back who studied under, I think, Dolores' daughter. We've had some pretty interesting conversations around that. Apparently, Dolores Cannon had a conversation with Nostradamus across time. Talk about mind stretching. That's just out of this world. So how does QHHT differ from the standard past life regression sessions?
Well, I'm not an expert in past life regressions. I've only really had one of those. I think it just takes it a little bit further from my understanding of it, is that you start out with a regression, but then you go in and you talk directly to your subconscious. So the practitioner will bring you out of that past life or whatever it was, and then you can go in and they will go through the list of questions that you prepare in advance, and you can speak from that subconscious realm and get your questions answered.
And you mentioned life between lives. Have you experienced that as well?
Yeah, that was the second time I did the QHHT. I ended up going to the Crystal City, which was so much more exciting than starving to death in China.
The Crystal City. Let me try and guess. The Crystal City. This is probably a very long time ago, right?
You mean in when I did the hypnosis? Or
I'm talking about, that sounds like it's far back in time.
It's outside of time. So here on Earth, we operate in a time-space construct. But when you transition or when you're not in your body anymore, you're not in time-space. So you're outside of time-space. Time doesn't really exist there.
Right, but we don't have any crystal cities in our documented history.
Some people would call it heaven. You could call it heaven.
Okay.
I look at the crystal city as the place you go before you come into this experience on Earth.
Oh, okay.
The crystal city is your training ground, so to speak, for Earth. And so when you go there, you are preparing for your life on Earth. You are planning your next life. You are working with your spirit guides. You are working with your angels. You are working with your soul family. You are healing from your past life, whatever that last experience was you just had. And you go there to rejuvenate and really reflect on your soul and what you've done before. Where are you? What do you want to learn in the next lifetime? We are not victims because we're not. We plan everything. We choose everything. We choose our parents. We choose the type of skin color we're going to have. We choose where we're going to be born. We choose all of it. It's amazing.
The last time I heard someone mentioning a crystal palace or a crystal building was in Atlantis. That's why I asked you about the time, if that made any sense. The interesting thing about that whole process that you just described, it's like casting a movie. I've heard that from I don't know how many different people, like casting a play, and you're the producer, you're the script writer, and it's supposedly for us to gain experience. That's why Edgar Cayce, speaking of which, was quoted as saying there are no victims.
It's true.
There is no good, there is no bad, there's only experience, right?
Exactly. And looking at that life where I was starving and asking, well, why did you show me this life? Why did I go through this? And the answer that came back was you chose to live a life of restriction and struggle so that you could experience the contrast later on and expansion and really have like the spectrum, right? So we have a spectrum of experiences, and sometimes we choose the very extreme, like struggle and horror in order to really contrast it with joy and bliss and love and growth and that sort of stuff.
Because without dark, there is no light. Another way to look at it is if you had nothing but good experiences, life would be vanilla and you wouldn't learn anything.
Exactly. Which is why we have a life lesson, and that's in your fingerprints.
It sounds very consistent with what I've heard over the years from people that had the same experience. Now, where does the term vortex fit into all this experience? Was it somewhere in the realm of the past lives, the in-between space, or is that something else?
Well, when I think of vortex, I think of the Sedona vortexes. I essentially live in a vortex now, which is really interesting because when people come to Sedona, and we do get about 2 million visitors a year, and I do public speaking here every week at one of the local hotels, and it's so fun to talk to the tourists because I like to ask them, do you feel different here? Have you been to the vortexes? How do you feel when you come here? And the answer is typically, yes, it feels different here. I can't really explain it, but I just feel good here. That's the response that I get from a lot of people. So a vortex to me is like an energy center that's really concentrated, and it allows us to really ramp up certain things that we want to bring into our lives. So for me, my manifesting has rapidly increased since I moved to Sedona. It's amazing.
So they're concentrated energy pits almost, or energy grids.
Exactly. Yeah.
I've not been to Sedona, but I visited Woodstock, New York not too long ago, and the energy about that place, speaking of which, is unmistakable. Back in the 80s, there was a very prominent Buddhist monk that visited there and built a replica of a Buddhist temple. I think that speaks volumes.
Absolutely.
I imagine Sedona is a hotspot for that type of activity because it's got a history. There's definitely some unusual activity there, as we spoke about before.
Yeah.
I've also heard about people seeing spaceships. Is that true?
That is true. I didn't know how many UFOs I was going to see moving to Sedona. but we see them quite often. Sunset time is usually the best time. I like to be out on my front deck and I'm looking up at the sky, and you can totally see them naked eye. And you just have to identify what is the difference between a UFO versus, say, an airplane or a helicopter or a satellite. So as it gets dark, an airplane is going to have flashing lights. That typically is not the case with a UFO. It doesn't move like an airplane. It moves in like a very erratic pattern. It's really interesting. But yeah, I've seen several since I've been here.
That must be quite a treat. Do you ever feel like threatened or not really?
Never. I feel nothing but love and support in Sedona.
So the net result of the contact with the Pleiadians and the Arcturians and the scores of others, it's a positive thing. You talk about love and
100%.
Which I've heard before. There's also some star beings that are not so friendly.
Well, I personally have put up the boundary that I don't communicate with lower density life forms. I have worked with Archangel Michael for quite a long time. The message I get from him is just, you can call in what you want, and you definitely have free will. Some people can conjure up demons and all kinds of dark things. I am absolutely not one of those people. I have no interest in communicating with any lower life forms. I only call in the higher dimensional beings, and that's exactly what I get. So I'm super grateful that that's who I communicate with. I always feel love, loving presence, support, guidance, and really a sense of peace. Peacefulness comes through when you communicate with those beings.
Have you ever gotten visuals of, say, Archangel Michael, for instance?
I don't really get visuals like maybe a clairvoyant type person would get. My psychic abilities are more clairsentient, claircognizant, and telepathic. I can get a sense of maybe colors and things like that, but that's about as far as it goes for me.
With the automatic writing that you mentioned earlier, is there like a telepathic thing happening where you start writing down, or is it you don't even know what you're writing? How does that work?
Exactly. I'm not really aware of what I'm writing. I just turn on my meditation music. I meditate actually in an amethyst chair. So my chair weighs about 600 pounds. It's pure amethyst. I mean, it's really spectacular. And occasionally I'll meditate inside of a pyramid as well. I have a 7-foot pyramid in my meditation space. Sometimes I'll go in my pyramid. Sometimes I'll be in my amethyst chair. I always play my beautiful music. And then I just have my notebook. I have my pen. And I just wait. And what happens is I will get this light that goes into my third eye. It's like a bright orange kind of light. I'd say orange yellow. And I know somebody's ready to talk to me. So then I just pick up my pen and I start writing. And I don't know what I'm writing when I do it.
Do you have a message from one of these transmissions that you'd like to share with us?
I do. I wanted to share this message from my book, From the Pleiadian Council of Light. This is a really beautiful message that came in. They said, "You are part of the weaving of the cosmic tapestry of divine light. The choices you make on Earth radiate out of this pattern to impact the entire universe. We would like you to understand the importance you all have and the power to reverberate love into the field. For now is a time of renewal, a time of rebirth, and a time of remembrance. It is time for you to remember the truth of your nature, your divine nature. It is time to drop the false identities of smallness, insignificance, helplessness. The time is now to remember your placement in the cosmic pattern of all that is."
What it reminds me of, remembering who we are. This comes up a lot in these types of discussions, and I think it has something to do with when we come from the Crystal Palace, or whatever you want to call it, and then we slip into a soul amnesia, and then we come back down here and we kick and scream. So does the remembering who we are have to do with that soul amnesia eventually vaporizing, or is that something different?
Yeah, I kind of think of it like a dawn, like the sun starting to come up over the horizon. We go through that veil of amnesia, just like you talk about. And we do that because if we remembered everything about who we are, we would be distracted. So because we choose to have a certain experience, certain lessons to learn, we have a focus, we have a reason for being here. And if we had that full memory, it could get distracting and we might not take it seriously.
It would be like having the answers to the tests.
Exactly. And then you just wouldn't take it seriously.
Okay, so as far as remembering who we are, is it really about remembering that we are very powerful beings?
Yes, I would say that is definitely part of it. We need to remember that we are divine beings of light. We are way more powerful than we could possibly know. And as we remember and as we ascend, then we start to really get into that pathway of ascension. It's like a beautiful sunrise.
And we can do that without remembering all of our past lives.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay. You've got a lot going on. You've got a book coming out called The Ways to God. Without giving away everything, what can we expect from that?
Yeah, so that's a collaboration book I'm really excited to be a part of with the Near Death Institute. I am writing the chapter on, of course, the hands of God. So you're going to learn a lot about just the whole palm portal system and all that fun stuff with hands. Everybody in the book is going to be sharing something about how they discovered God or how they got into more of their divine nature. And it's going to be a really fun book. I'm really excited about it.
Okay. And you're also a featured expert in a movie called Pillars of Power. So are you actually in the movie? Are you an expert, or is it a little bit of both?
Okay, so I will be one of the featured experts in the movie. The movie will be out hopefully in November, sometime in the fall. If you saw The Secret about 20 years ago, this is sort of like The Secret Part 2. It's got some of the same cast members from the original Secret. It's going to be like the chapter of empowerment, the secrets behind achieving greatness. I talk, of course, about spirituality, but there are 5 pillars that the movie is going to talk about to really empower your life. That's ultimately what it's all about.
That sounds like it's going to be very interesting and a lot of fun, too. The filming, obviously, is done. All that's done. It should be out in November. It's cool. It's very good. All right. With all your experience, spirit guides, galactics, angels, Archangel Michael, and all these other different beings and your path, what are the most important things that you've learned?
I would say focusing on the 4 things that you're in charge of, first of all. So we really can only control 4 things. We control our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, and our responses. If you can dial in those 4 things, and if you can become a master of those 4 things, you can become the master of your reality. I do a lot of work with people, helping them to uncover, especially feelings, because a lot of people struggle with feelings and they have traumas from a divorce, for example, or somebody in their life who died. We carry these traumas with us in our body, and that actually lowers our vibratory set point. So we need to heal those things in order to ascend. So if we're going to hold on to a grudge, for example, that is not going to serve you. You have got to learn how to let go of that trapped emotion. You've got to learn to forgive, to let go, to step into the higher feelings of love, compassion, acceptance, forgiveness. All of those things, they just talk about just be a good person. There's a lot of truth to that.
Does that have anything to do with the 7 aspects of ascension that you teach?
Yes. In one of my transmissions, I received these 7 aspects of ascension, and it tied in with that number 717 that I kept seeing over and over again. Number 1 is to be open to change, because if you can't change, you can't grow. Number 2 is you need to discover yourself. So that's why do I do hand analysis? If you don't know who you are, then how can you be who you are? Number 3 is you need to learn your lessons. You signed up for specific lessons in this lifetime, and you need to learn them. So you better know what they are, and you better work on them. Number 4, neutralizing your karma. We all have karma. You can't be in a body without having karma. That doesn't mean that it's going to be a punishment. A lot of people think of karma as punishment. It's not like that. You can create positive karma for yourself just by thinking positively. So that's part of the neutralization, being loving, right, to others. Embodying the exalted self is the next one. And that is really about taking your lesson, turning it upside down, and then demonstrating it to others. I love helping people through that because that's really stepping into a higher version of yourself. The next one is higher states of love, accessing those really positive love vibrations. And even when you don't have good things happening to you every day, can you still be in the love vibration? That's a tricky one for a lot of people. That's a tricky one. And then the last one, co-creating with Source. We are here to be creators. We are creator beings. We are not here to just hang out. We have a reason, and creation is our natural way of being. When you can co-create with Source in alignment with who you are, with all the other 6 aspects of Ascension, it's normal for you to be creative. And so that's ultimately the why are we here?
Since I've heard a lot of people that have been in the in-between space talk about how it's like casting a movie or casting a play, if we get down here and we don't like the script, can we change it?
Absolutely. That's the free will component. I love that you asked that question because yes, we have the fingerprints, which are the soul aspect. We have the hand shape, which is your subconscious personality archetypes. And then you have your lines, which change in every moment of every day based upon your free will choices. So yes, you can absolutely change a timeline, change the way something appears. You have so much more power than you realize.
Which is what we talked about before. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I guess soul contracts can and often are broken.
Yes.
Because someone says, I don't like the scene. I thought of Wayne's World right now where at one point they turn around, they look at the camera. Do you want to end the movie like this? No. And then Aerosmith rolls up.
I love that.
It's a fun way to look at it. I don't think I can top that. I think we're going to stop there. Cynthia, thanks so much for joining us tonight. Very, very cool, very entertaining. In the meantime, how can our listeners find you online?
Yeah, they can just go to my website, ascension17.com.
And on Instagram?
Instagram, I am _ascension17_.
You've been listening to Closer to Venus. I'm Johnny Burke. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing. For more information, you can go to closertovenus.com. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.